In our Sunrise Smart Start happening today, the funeral for a man who meant a lot to the community he served here in Rochester. William Keith Booker, a retired RPD officer and RCSD resource officer, will be laid to rest this morning. Beginning at 11 a.m., RPD will provide an honor guard and escort during the funeral, which will take place at the Father's House Church in Chili. It was just over 2 weeks ago we learned of his death in a late-night shooting. Booker's family and friends remember him as a dedicated public servant, a steadfast friend, and a loving father. A group of employees from the Rochester Police Accountability Board are calling for acting manager Dwayne Basco to be terminated. This because of, quote, significant management issues plaguing the agency. Basco was named PAB acting director in May after executive director Connor Dwyer Reynolds was placed on administrative leave. In a series of letters addressed to board leadership, members say Basco has, quote, stoked and enabled an atmosphere of harassment, intimidation, retaliation, and confusion. They cite the suspension of PAB Chief of Policy and Oversight Michael Higgins as the most recent in a series of unjust losses. Meanwhile, in the wake of violence in Rochester, the Monroe County Sheriff's Office is putting in more hours to assist the Rochester Police Department. Since June, the department has spent roughly $140,000 on overtime and is looking for $100,000 from the county. Under Sheriff Corey Brown says while overtime equals a bigger workload, it's not impairing policing nor stretching patrols in other areas, but he does make one message clear.
What we really could use is for when we catch people that are committing violent crime for them to stay in jail, so we didn't have to catch them multiple times.
The undersheriff also says MCSO will be adding approximately 30 deputies to the ranks by the end of the month. Developing now in the world of retail, the weight of inflation has affected the most important parts of our everyday lives as consumers, from food, gas prices, even home buying. But ahead of the holiday season, one thing is on everyone's mind is how inflation could affect holiday sales this year. Jatira Marsh has been following this for us, and she joins us now in studio with more. Jatira, good morning.
Good morning. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, from the year 2020 to 2021, overall prices on items for consumers increased by 7%. That includes vehicles, grocery items, gasoline, airline fares, and medical services. Arthur J. Gosnell, professor of economics, Amit Badabiel, shares his predictions on how inflation will affect holiday sales this year.
One of the effects that you're going to see pretty clearly is shoppers trying to snag deals earlier on in the year rather than wait for later on where many of the bargains may be gone. That's one kind of impact. The second impact that you're likely to see is expenditure that is a lot more targeted. People buying fewer things but spending more on those fewer things.
Additionally, he says you may see people not making as many purchases online as they would have during the pandemic as they look to get that in-person experience rather than taking part in online shopping. Amel, back to you.
All right, Jatira, thank you. The RIT professor also says part of surviving the weight of inflation on holiday sales is figuring out what you really want to buy and scouting prices online and in person, then purchasing sooner rather than later. News 8 is your local election headquarters. The balance of power in the Monroe County Legislature could come down to one race, the race for District 8 in Webster. Republican legislator Mark Johns is running for re-election, and his challenger, Democrat Mike DiTullio, hopes to pull off a win. Christian Garzone has more.
This is Republican County Legislator Mark Johns. He spent 10 years in the state assembly and now represents Webster in the legislature, running for re-election.
Yeah, it is a part-time position, but I work it full-time.
Meet Mike DiTullio, English teacher at Webster Thomas High and the Democrat challenger to Johns. If elected, he plans to continue working at the school and balance that with his legislative duties.
I am not ready to walk away from the classroom.
He says based on registration numbers, Webster is more blue than people think.
If this seat was ever going to go blue, I think now, the time is just right, given what's going on in national politics.
By that, he means the debate on abortion and the issues surrounding former President Donald Trump. When it comes to another big topic, crime, he says across the county, everyone is working together.
They're all on the same page. They're going to get support from the governor, and I hope that they can figure stuff out.
Johns says for voters, crime and bail reform are the issues. In particular, offenders going free and city crime coming here.
We've had a few incidents out in Webster even this summer, and no one wants it to get worse.
On to other big focal points for DeTullio, it's the mental health of school children post-COVID.
Again, we don't know yet what the pandemic really did.
For Johns, fighting inflation and lowering costs is key. Also, for Albany to get its spending under control. Billions of federal dollars, he said, have been blown through.
And when the money's no longer at the state, less will be coming to the counties.
Reporting for News 8, this is Christian Garzone.